Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Bird and I was the Ocean Youth Ambassador this year for the Sunshine Coast. My take on Ocean Youth is that you seize the opportunity to explore and develop your passions for the ocean. If you ever find yourself wanting to grow your love for the ocean, I would highly suggest Ocean Youth for you. Now I introduce you to Dr Amy Smoothey, who is a shark scientist at the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries. For over 12 years, Amy has spent her days and nights researching these fascinating animals to understand when, where, and why sharks are in certain areas, and to help protect sharks and keep people safe. Amy joins us today for our final Marine Science Monday for the year and to present some of her latest research for the New South Wales Shark Program, where she will unlock the secret life of sharks. It is with great pleasure that I hand today's chat to Amy. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to come and talk with you today and share some of the science that we've been doing at DPI on sharks. So hopefully my aim for you guys is that at the end of the talk today that you will have some insights into the movements and behaviours of sharks, not only in New South Wales but Australia-wide, so that you can share with me the knowledge about the secret life of sharks. What do you think of the word what do you think about when you hear the word shark? Some people I ask say the NRL football team. Some people say, depending on your age group, they think of Bruce from Finding Nemo. Others think of fish and chips with the knowledge that we eat flake at our local fish and chip market from our local fish and chip shop. Others think of the majestic, beautiful shark species, the whale shark, hammerhead sharks. But do you ever wonder and think about sharks and associate the word old with them? Well, I'm going to give you some insights into the reason why old should be assigned to the word sharks. Who came first, sharks or dinosaurs? Would you believe it that sharks have been in our oceans for 450 million years? Whereas dinosaurs have been on our lands for only 230 million years. So in fact, sharks have been around longer than dinosaurs. What about if I ask you whether sharks or trees, who's been around longer? And the answer to that is sharks. Sharks have been around long before dinosaurs and long before trees. They have survived 5 mass extinctions. What do you think of, sorry, I'm just going to move this. So what are sharks? Sharks are a type of fish, but unlike their relatives, the bony fishes, sharks have skeleton that's made of cartilage that's light, flexible, unlike bone in fishes. They have tough skin that's made of dermal denticles that are like teeth-like structures that feels like sandpaper. It's not like scales on fish. And they don't have swim bladders like fish. They have livers that are full of oil to help keep them buoyant and stay afloat. And they have between 5 and 7 gills. How many species of sharks are there? Well, worldwide, there's over 500 species of sharks in our oceans. And within Australian waters, we're lucky enough to have over 180 species of sharks. Sharks come in all shapes and sizes. We have Chum, the mako shark. We have Bruce, the great white shark. And we have Anchor, the hammerhead shark. To distinguish among the different types of sharks, we look at these key features. We look at the color and the patterning, for example, stripes on a target shark. We look at the body shape and the size of the snout, for example, in hammerhead sharks. We look at the size, the shape, and the positions of the fins, such as the dorsal fin and the pectoral fins. This is a really key indicator for us to be able to determine what species is what, as well as tooth shape and number. As I said, sharks come in all shapes and sizes, from the smallest shark, the dwarf lantern shark that fits in the palm of your hand at 20 centimeters, to the largest fish in the sea, the whale shark, which is the size of the average school bus at around 12 meters in total length. And there's reports that the whale sharks can grow up to around 18.8 meters. Each shark species has its very own distinct shaped teeth, and this depends on what they eat. And this depends on what they eat and the mode at which they eat by. So for example, Port Jackson sharks have plate-like teeth and they crush up their crustacean prey. Can anyone guess what type of tooth is in the top here? Well, I'm going to let you in. It's very distinctive in its shape. It's a tiger shark tooth. It's curved and it's heavily serrated, and it's similar on the upper and lower jaw. What about on the lower image? This is a white shark. This is a large triangular tooth with serrations on the both sides of the tooth. And the shape of white shark's teeth are similar on the upper and lower jaw. On the right over here, we have a jaw of a bull shark. The teeth in the upper jaw are really broad and triangular, and they're heavily serrated, while as the teeth in the lower jaw have a broad base, but come to a narrower tip, more triangular with fine serrations. So you can see just from looking at these three species of shark teeth, the tiger, the white, and the bull, they're very distinct in their shape. So we know that sharks are great predators, and because of their powerful jaws and their tooth structure that I've just explained to you. But there are other key features that make them great predators. For example, they've got well-developed caudal fin for swimming. They've got the skin covered in the dermal denticles. This is very robust. It's sandpaper, so that it feels like sandpaper, so that it's an adaptation as well. And it's very hydrodynamic. They have the flexible skeleton made of cartilage, and they have highly developed sense of smell, highly developed senses, and they have 6 senses. They've got great hearing, they've got good eyesight, they've got a powerful sense of smell. They have taste cells in their mouth. They have this lateral line that runs along the side of the shark, and this enables the shark to detect vibrations often produced by their wounded prey. But in addition to these senses, they have these jelly-filled pores that help, and you can see here on the snout of this tiger shark, you can see, if you look closely, there's little pinpricks, and these are jelly-filled pores that help sense electric fields from prey and assist with their navigation. And these are called ampullae of Lorenzini, and they're an amazing asset for sharks, for not only for detecting their prey, but also for navigation. So we know sharks are great predators, but why are they important? Healthy oceans need healthy populations of sharks, and you may have heard that and you wonder why. Well, the answer is, as sharks are predators, they play an important role in keeping marine ecosystems in a balanced and healthy state. They do this in 2 ways. They do it by controlling the populations of the prey, the food that they eat, and by influencing how other animals in the ecosystem behave when they're present, in the sense of the predator avoidance situation, so that their prey avoids areas where they are. So they do it in the 2 ways. So if we lose sharks from our ecosystem, it will lead to loss in species diversity and an unbalanced marine ecosystem. Some of the shark species we can see in our nearshore waters of New South Wales, this obviously varies from time of year, but it's expected to see the Port Jackson shark, wobbegong shark, the white shark, the bull shark, hammerhead sharks, tigers, grey nurse sharks. In addition to this, we can see dusky whalers. There's various species that we can see in our nearshore waters in New South Wales. But what are the species that we focus on at New South Wales DPI in terms of our shark bite mitigation measures? Well, we are really interested in looking at white sharks, bull sharks, and tiger sharks. And this is because these are the species that are involved in shark bites. Although shark bites are rare, these are the 3 species that are mostly involved in our New South Wales waters. In 2015, we had a series of shark bites. We had 16 shark bites in New South Wales, with 50% of those bites occurring in northern New South Wales. Whilst we have bather protection measures in the Greater Sydney area, such as the shark nets between Wollongong and, in the south and Newcastle in the north, across 51 beaches, we didn't have any prior to 2015. We didn't have any bather protection measures in the northern half of the state. So this led to us to develop the New South Wales Shark Management Strategy. And the aim of the strategy was to increase protection for beachgoers from shark interactions, whilst minimising harms to sharks and other marine animals, non-target species. And when I say target species, I refer to bulls, whites and tigers, because as I stated, these are the ones that are mostly responsible for shark bites in New South Wales. And part of the strategy, we had 3 main components. One was looking at the surveillance, detection and deterrence. The other was science and research. And the third was education and community awareness. Here's a video that I'm going to play about the overview of the New South Wales Shark Management Strategy.
In 2015, shark experts from around the world came together in New South Wales to solve a problem. How do we increase protection for people at beaches with minimal harm to sharks and other marine life? This summit formed the basis for the New South Wales Shark Management Strategy, which tested and trialled a suite of measures, including putting drones that can talk to you in the surf in the hands of our surf lifesavers to be an eye in the sky. Rolling out a network of listening stations that detect tagged sharks, linked to a real-time app. Trialled smart drumlines to catch, tag and relocate sharks. Worked with experts to test new ideas like bite-proof wetsuits for surfers. Other measures trialled included helicopters, barriers and clever voice sonar technology. To understand more about shark movements and behaviours, shark research and tagging were also an important part of the strategy. The New South Wales Government now has the largest shark tagging program in the world, unlocking the secrets of shark movements and behaviours. We also rolled out education and engagement programs and asked what people think about sharks and staying safe at beaches.
So it was a busy period of time from October 2015. Like you saw, we trialled and tested various mitigation measures so that we could obviously try and keep the public safe whilst minimising harm to target and non-target species. And the most preferred technologies that came out of our review and in terms of the success of our trials and from community engagement was drones, smart drumlines and tagging and tracking of sharks to learn about the movements and behaviour of those animals. And this is the focus. These 3 preferred technologies are what I'm going to focus for the rest of my talk today. So drones, ultimately the aim is keeping water users safe by having eyes in the sky. We now have drones at 50 New South Wales patrolled beaches, and these drones are operated by Surf Life Saving Australia. They alert the public if a potentially dangerous shark is seen, and then the beach can be evacuated. But in addition to that, we can learn about the behaviours of sharks and their use of the coastal beaches. But to be able to be effective in a bather protection measure, we need to be able to identify sharks from above. And there are a few key features of how we can determine the species of shark based on the positioning of fins, the shoulders, the snout, the shape of the snout, the nose, the pectoral fins, the precaudal pit, the tail, the swimming motion of the shark. Here you can see 3 species of sharks from above. And I'm wondering if there are any shark scientists or junior shark scientists in the making that are keen to try and determine if they know the species. Is anyone willing to have a shout out to tell me what they think species 1 is? Look, we always learn, don't be afraid to make a mistake, but if no one's too keen, I'll share the answers with you. So shark 1 is a white shark, shark 2 is a bull shark, and shark 3 is a tiger shark. And how did we determine the species? So as I said earlier, there's a few key features that we use to determine the species. So for a white shark, it's got the really pointed A-frame snout nose. It's got the broad shoulders. It has wide pectoral fins and the tips are curved and pointing towards the tail. And they have that really cruising swim pattern, which is typically slow. The bull shark, on the other hand, it's large, it's got a rounded snout, it's got the broad shoulders. The pectoral fin is in line with the dorsal fin, sorry, and the swimming pattern is almost arrow-like and it's very straight. Tiger shark is the third species, and it's got a rounded snout similar to the bull shark. It's got smaller and very curved pectoral fins. The dorsal fin is clearly behind, you can see it here. It's clearly behind the pectoral fins, and the swimming is usually very subtle. Obviously, this is different if it's chasing prey. So based on our research with drones, they're highly effective at localized beta protection measure, and they, as I said, they've been increased expanded in their range over the summer of 2022. So what are other beta protection measures that we have deployed in New South Wales? So we have smart drumlines. Smart drumlines, and SMART stands for Shark Management Alert in Real Time. Smart drumlines are a shark mitigation tool as well as a research tool. They're aimed at minimizing the impact on marine species because they're not like traditional drumlines. They're not set and forgot. They're deployed early in the morning and they're retrieved prior to sunset. They're 99% successful in releasing animals alive, and this is because of the smart technology. When an animal takes the bait, we are alerted by an SMS, an email, and a telephone call. Here is a video to explain the value and the success of our shark.
New South Wales has been trialling smart drum lines off beaches to intercept target sharks. Smart drum lines are designed to have minimal impact on sharks and other marine animals. They are set in the morning and retrieved every day and use a single baited hook with a mullet. When an animal is caught, the contractors are alerted and attend within 30 minutes to remove the animal from the line. If it is a target shark, it is tagged and released 1 kilometre out to sea. Smart drum lines have been trialled at numerous locations along the New South Wales coast, from Lennox Head on the north coast to Pambula on the south coast. Trials on the north coast in 2016 and 2017 found smart drum lines were 4 times more effective than nets at catching target sharks. Between December 2016 and September 2019, across all trial sites in New South Wales, smart drum lines have caught a total of 690 animals, of which 485 were target sharks and 205 were non-target animals, mostly other types of sharks. Almost all animals were caught and released alive, giving a survival rate of approximately 99%. After tracking sharks caught on smart drum lines, preliminary data shows these sharks tend to move further offshore and are generally not detected again by one of our shark listening stations for an average of 74 days. The distance between where the shark was tagged and released to the location of where the shark was first detected by one of our shark listening stations was on average 164 kilometres away.
So these smart drum lines are very effective at minimising the risk off our local beaches, as well as minimizing harm, as you saw, to target and non-target species, because we're getting the alert, we're going out, responding, tagging and relocating the sharks rather than the sharks sitting on the line overnight. So smart drumlines are definitely a way forward, and they are going to be deployed throughout New South Wales over the coming summer and autumn months as a part of the new shark program that's been announced. So in addition, when a shark is caught by the smart drumline, we catch, once it's caught, it's tagged, but also we tag sharks to learn about their movements and behaviors. So we want to see if there are any predictable patterns in their distribution and abundance through time, so that we can provide the public with information about areas and times of increased risk of encountering a shark. So we deploy target-specific mitigation measures if there are, for example, drones, if there are large numbers of sharks in those areas. We tag sharks, obviously, to learn where they go and when, but we have to catch them. And we use various methods to catch sharks. Smart drumlines are really effective at catching tiger sharks and white sharks. However, they're not so effective at catching bull sharks. And a reason for this is because bull sharks are a crepuscular species, and they're more active at dawn and dusk. And as I said, the smart drumlines are deployed after sunrise and retrieved before sunset. And this is because of the location in which most of the smart drumlines are deployed, specifically in the Northern Rivers location in northern New South Wales. They've got to navigate dangerous bars. So it's very dangerous for contractors to deploy these smart drumlines before sunrise because of the navigational hazards. So we do targeted tagging, and we do that specifically for bull sharks, in addition to the smart drumlines that are fishing. And we do that by fishing prior to sunrise or after sunset. So you can see here at many of my summer days and nights are spent tagging bull sharks. And so to catch them, they're, as I said, crepuscular species. We set the lines prior to sunrise. And we set 5 set lines that sit on the seabed, and there's 15 hooks per set line. The set line stretches over 200 meters, and the baits are either mullet or eel, and they sit for around 2 hours. And we don't know if we're lucky enough to catch a shark until we retrieve the lines. And we put the lines in for only 2 hours because we want to minimize the harm to the shark and the maximum survival and the health of the shark, to monitor the true behaviors of those animals. So the tagging, here's a video of tagging sharks in Sydney Harbour to learn where they go and when they move. So here we've been successful of catching a bull shark. So we use, for all our fishing, we use circle hooks to minimize the harm to the animal, to ensure that it's hooked in the mouth. So here we've got the shark alongside the research vessel. We've got the tail rope on. We collect various biological measurements, such as the precaudal, the fork, and the total length of the shark. We determine the sex of the individual. And we're now rolling the shark over. When we roll sharks over, they go into a state of tonic immobility. This allows us as researchers to carry out our small surgical procedure with minimal harm to myself or the researcher, and to minimal harm to the shark. Here we've made a small surgical incision in the abdomen. We're putting in the tag into the gut cavity. These tags are fantastic. They have a battery life of 10 years. They allow us to monitor the behaviors of sharks when they come within 500 meters of one of our listening stations. The tags in, we give it an antibiotic injection. We suture the wound closed. And now what we're doing is we're putting a satellite tag on the dorsal fin. We do, this shark is getting 2 types of tags. The 2 types of tag provide us with complementary information. Satellite tags provide us with information everywhere the shark goes when it comes to the surface and communicates to satellites overhead, whereas the internal acoustic tag works on a 69 kilohertz frequency, and it pings and the information is decoded when it communicates to one of our shark listening stations. These, and the downside of the satellite tags are that they only provide us with information for around 2 years. There's also different types of tags, satellite tags called PSATs, pop-off archival tags that we put in just below the dorsal fin of the shark. We always remove the hook from the shark. We take a fin clip for genetic assessments. We take the tail rope off and release the shark. That process typically takes around 15 minutes, and we've got really valuable information. And then the shark, we're collecting information about the whereabouts of the sharks over the next 10 years based on the internal acoustics. So how are we going in terms of tracking sharks? So to date, we've tagged 680 white sharks that range in size from 1.5 meters to 3.8 meters in total length. So the majority of these sharks are juveniles and subadults. Tiger sharks, we've tagged 197 tiger sharks in New South Wales waters, 1.3 to 3.5 meters in total length. And for bull sharks, we've tagged 182. We just tagged one just earlier this afternoon off Evans Head, and it got a satellite tag on it. And we've tagged those sharks ranging in size from 90 centimeters all the way up to 3.4 meters. And 3.4 meters is the upper range of a bull shark. So when one of our tagged sharks comes within 500 meters of our listening station, one of these yellow buoys are satellite linked listening stations. So a tagged shark comes within 500 meters. This information is decoded by the listening station. It communicates to satellites overhead, and then we get a message on our Shark Smart via our Shark Smart app on our phone, and my local VR4G or shark listening station is off Bondi, and I can see what movements or how many sharks or what sharks are detected at Bondi before I go for a swim. So it's so I can make an informed decision about my water use activity. These listening stations are worked in relation in alignment with Surf Life Saving New South Wales, so that beach authorities can assess the situation and close it if a tagged shark is at their patrolled beach. We currently have 21 listening stations between Kingscliff and Merimbula, with an additional 16 new shark listening stations going to be deployed in 2022. In addition to those VR4G satellite linked listening stations, researchers from other universities, other departments are deploying listening stations. So the typical VR2W listening stations all around New South Wales, the East Coast, and in Australia, worldwide in fact. And all the tags work by communicating to these listening stations. And so we can share and get our information off other universities receivers. And all this information is put into a database managed by the Integrated Marine Observing System. And the disadvantage of these style of listening stations is that we actually have to physically go and download the listening stations to get the information, so that we can then piece together all the jigsaw puzzles to see where the shark has been. Whereas the satellite linked listening stations that we have are real-time detections that send alerts to us via our Shark Smart app. So there's a lot of information on this slide, but I'm going to talk you through. So from north, we have Kingscliff in the north to Merimbula in the south, and each of these orange dots are a listening station that we currently have in the water. However, as I said, we're getting more listening stations deployed in 2022. And here on the right is the total number of detections of tagged sharks between December 2016 and October 2019. The total number of detections was 55,000, which is amazing. This is looking at the detections of bull sharks, white sharks, and tiger sharks between December 2016 and October 2019. Here on the y-axis, we have our listening station location, and on the x-axis, we have the number of detections. And you can see from looking at this figure that Foster and Hawk's Nest had the greatest number of detections of all sharks combined, followed by Southwest Rocks. And this was largely driven by the presence of white sharks. So 150 white sharks were detected off Foster, followed by 90 at Hawk's Nest. The receiver that detected the least number of sharks was that at Bateman's Bay. And a little closer to home, here is the Sydney listening station that's off Bondi Beach, and during that period of time, it detected 10 white sharks, 14 bull sharks, and no tiger sharks. So tracking the sharks, there is high variability between species and location. The most number of white sharks were detected at Foster, and this was 150 white sharks, not at any one time, but throughout that duration of the study, so between December 2016 and October 2019, followed by Southwest Rocks. For bull sharks, Sharps Beach and Lighthouse Beach detected 22 bull sharks throughout the course of the study, and 4 tiger sharks were detected at Sharps Beach and Lighthouse Beach. And the reason why we got fewer tiger sharks detected was that they're more continental, they tend to use more the continental and slope waters, whereas the bull sharks and great whites tend to use more coastal waters. Here is a video of the seasonal movements of white sharks.
This video only depicts white shark movement, and it's important to note that sharks can be present at any time of the year. This animation starts in October 2019. You can see there were white sharks detected in most locations up and down the New South Wales coast. As we move more into summer and autumn, the number of shark detections reduces. In January through to April, many locations had no white sharks detected. As winter arrives, the number of white sharks detected increases again, and this continues through spring, with the numbers peaking in September 2020. Try pausing the animation to have a look at the number of white sharks detected in your local region at various times of the year. We have learned that the white shark nursery area defined by CSIRO as Hawk's Nest to Foster is in fact much larger. More recent data indicates that the white shark nursery extends from the central coast in the south up to the mid-north coast. This is evident by the higher number of sharks detected in these regions.
Great, so that's the movements for white sharks.
This video.
And here are the movements, the typical movements of when and where tiger, bull, and white sharks are. So what's important to note is that white sharks aren't permanent resident of a particular location at any given time. They're highly migratory, traveling large distances. Tiger sharks, they're a warm water species. They live in the nearshore and offshore waters, as I said earlier, going off onto the continental slope waters. They travel great distances, and they travel north for the winter and south for the summer. Bull sharks, they travel great distances too. Large bull sharks come down when the East Australian currents, when the water's warming. Bull sharks head down for the late spring, early summer. And they're one of the few species that can live in rivers, being able to tolerate freshwater environments. some pretty fascinating distances that those tag sharks are traveling, and that's representative of the movements that we're seeing, not just there, but for all the species, the tiger, bull and white, for all the sharks that we've tagged, some phenomenal distances those sharks have traveled. This is one of our scientists, Dr. Paul Butcher, that he and this is one of his favorite sharks that he tagged. It was a male bull shark. It was 306 centimeters at tagging. And in the 3.5 years post tagging, we've monitored it traveling over 40,000 kilometers. This shark was tagged in July when the strategy started, or not long after, and at Ballina. And look at the distances this shark has moved, over 40,000 kilometers in 3.5 years. It was initially suggested that there was no mixing in the population between the east and the west coast, but as a result of this shark and the tagging data, you can see that it's clear that those sharks on the east coast are definitely moving over to the west coast. So a little bit closer to home, here's some tracking of bull sharks in the Sydney region. This animation shows the movements of tagged sharks between 2010 and 2012. Since that time, we have now tagged over 87 bull sharks in Sydney Harbour between 2009 and 2021. These sharks are all large, sexually mature sharks ranging in size from 2 meters to 3.2 meters in total length. So the animation is starting here. The time is we're in December. Each line is and each coloured line is a different shark. So you can see here coming down from Port Stephens. And we know that as a result of our tagging and tracking research, that bull sharks come down the East Australian coast when water temperature is warming in late spring, early summer. Throughout that time, they utilise the entire stretch of the waterways for the upper river reaches in the Georges River, in Sydney Harbour, in Port Hacking. And we know that they're typically more active during dawn and dusk. During the day, they tend to reside in deeper holes. And during low light levels, they come out into shallower areas. When water temperature drops below 20 degrees, bull sharks start to leave the coastal waters of the Sydney region and head north to northern New South Wales. And we have tracked our tagged sharks moving over 1,800 kilometres. So those sharks that we're tagging in Sydney Harbour have been redetected on the Great Barrier Reef. And what's really interesting is that 70% of the sharks that we've tagged in Sydney Harbour have left, gone to the Barrier Reef, and subsequently returned each year in Sydney Harbour. So when and where are they when they're in Sydney Harbour? So I'm going to explain this. This figure is of 40 sharks tracked over 6 years. These are all bull sharks. The year is represented by colour. So green is 2019, moving to red in 2015. The smaller the dot, the fewer the sharks, the bigger the circle, more sharks. And from looking at this figure, we can see that sharks utilise all areas of Sydney Harbour. Bull sharks utilise all areas of Sydney Harbour. Yet from year to year, there is variation in where they're detected and how many are detected there. However, when we merge all data across all sharks in all years, we found 2 areas of increased utilisation. And one is off Kirribilli Garden Island in this location here, and the other is up in the Parramatta River off Glags Bay area. And we found that mean depth was a key predictor of the occurrence of bull sharks in Sydney Harbour, such that bull sharks were more likely to be found in steep drop-off areas. So shallow areas adjacent to steep drop-offs. And as I said, they tended to reside in the deeper holes during the day and then come out during those low light periods. Everyone asked me what happens on Australia Day. You see the images, you see You may have been lucky enough to be out on Sydney Harbour on Australia Day. Well, this given Australia Day, we had 15 tagged bull sharks in Sydney Harbour. It was a hot, beautiful day. How many untagged sharks were there? There was no reported sightings. There was no interactions, suggesting that bull sharks and humans can coexist and have been doing. The maximum number of tagged sharks we detected throughout the course of the study was 18 bull sharks, and this was in February of 2012. What's driving the movements of bull sharks? Well, we've been working on them for a little bit longer than the whites and the tiger sharks, so we have a little bit more detailed understanding about those movements. And we know that bull sharks are more likely to be found in or near an estuary. And water temperature is a key predictor of their occurrence. When water temperature is between 20 and 26 degrees, we know that bull sharks are going to be around. But when water temperature is at 22, bull sharks are going to be most numerous. And they leave our coastal waterways when water temperature drops below 19 degrees and tend to head north to the Great Barrier Reef and for the winter and the spring months. But what's really interesting is that 3 months with the potential forecasted climate change and increasing water temperatures, it's expected and predicted that there's going to be a 3-month increase in availability of favourable water temperatures by the 2030s. So bull sharks will be able to spend longer in our New South Wales coastal waters because of the availability of their preferred water temperature. So to wrap up, it's summer. How to be shark smart? Well, you know, there's no silver bullet when it comes to mitigating your risk completely. However, there are ways that we can be shark smart. And one is to swim at your local beach and between the flags. And people often ask, why is that? Why am I safer if I'm swimming at a patrol beach? That is because if you get into trouble, you are going to be able to gain assistance. We also say don't surf or swim at dawn and dusk, as many sharks feed at this time. And we know from our science that bull sharks are crepuscular species and tend to feed in those early morning and late evening periods of time. Avoid drop-offs. We've shown through the bull shark research that bull sharks tend to favour or be more likely to occur in these drop-off locations. Don't swim or surf alone, always buddy up. And this is because your buddy will be there to help you in the event of an issue. Always be mindful, be aware. Check before you go in the ocean. We all love the water. We want to be able to coexist with sharks, but we want to know key features. And key features of increasing your risk of encountering a shark is the presence of prey. So look for birds diving, splashing on the surface, because if there's bait fish, there's often going to be the predator there feeding on them. Sharks are important for our oceans. We need them. Healthy oceans need healthy populations of sharks. So we need to make informed decisions about our water use activities. And whether you're a surfer or not, it would be worthwhile considering a personal deterrent device such as the Freedom Plus Surf by Ocean Guardian, and that's been tried and tested, and that's been shown to be effective. Although it's not completely effective for all species, it has been shown to minimize the encounter with baits. So that's another measure if you want to continue to enjoy our ocean and coexist with sharks. So I need to acknowledge the awesome team that I work with. I'm just one of many, and there's people beyond this slide here. We have several scientists, Dr. Vic Petamors and Dr. Paul Butcher, who lead the shark research along with myself. We have our social scientist, Dr. Carol Martin, Kim Wolfenden, she's our community engagement stakeholder, our director and our program leader, Natalie and Marcel. So I'm just one of many of a great team. So with that, I want to take questions, but I also want to point you in a way of being able to be informed. So I recommend you follow us on Twitter at New South Wales Shark Smart, or follow us on Instagram at New South Wales __ Shark Smart, and download our Shark Smart app so that you can be informed and make your water use activities and be shark smart by seeing if there's any tag sharks at your local beach. Over to you to ask some really exciting questions.